This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks NYC. I am on with Aaron Zack, the youngest NFL sports agent in the history of the NFL, which I actually should have been drafted in. At 48, I'm still undrafted. So Aaron runs a company called Revolving Mind Media, handling a lot of top-notch partnerships and sponsorships with top athletes, and look forward to having them on and having us get a crash course here in how to get involved in this category. So Aaron, good to have you on.
Thanks so much for having me. Excited to chat with you today.
Awesome. So, maybe take us back to starting as a sports agent, and then, as you were kind of coming out of saying, should I be a sports agent or should I basically handle the marketing and sponsorship side, the convergence or like the growth of entertainment and sports and athletes as brands?
Yeah, no. So I started off, I was trying to decide when I was going to college if I was going to go the sports medicine or sports management route. I knew I wanted to be around a football field and I didn't have the athletic ability, so I had to get on the football a different way. And so my passion was always on the business side. So I took the sports management route, was a majored in sports management at the University of Texas in Austin. And I secured an internship leaving my freshman year, going into my sophomore year, with the second largest NFL sports agency in the Southwest. Unpaid intern for 2 years, really had to just grind to make it in the world of sports. So many individuals want to make it, but they don't understand what goes into it. So I put in the time over a 2-year time period. The whole focus was to become an agent. I knew I wanted to become an agent since I was the age of 12 or 13. Like I said, I consider the sports medicine route, but it was always the business side for me. I was, throughout my sophomore and junior years, worked for this agency and took a small hiatus to work for Fox Sports. The media side was not my thing. And I continued on to become the youngest agent in the business, like you mentioned. And right around that time, the previous agency wanted me to stay in my previous roles, which was running events and doing marketing. And I launched Revolving Mind Media shortly after leaving the agency. I said, this is my passion, and I'm just going to go out and get it. Brought a few clients over with me, and my passion is helping these athletes secure long-term wealth. That's the bottom line. I'm trying to put as much money in my clients' pockets as possible. And I will only work with the player directly. I will focus on businesses that they are interested in, and I'll never push a deal that if they don't drink soda, they're not going to partner with Coca-Cola, right? That's my mentality since I was really 18 years old in the industry, is creating unique and authentic relationships. And I create a lot of unique partnerships that focus on equity and stock that most companies focus on cash deals. And I look at this as that long-term wealth mentality. So that's a little bit from my journey into kind of where we are today with Revolving Mind Media.
Yeah, so in the health club industry, there were a number of deals, I'd say probably about 15, 20 years ago, where Magic Johnson put his name on 24-hour fitness locations. Jeter did that in New York. So there's been some of that from a branding standpoint. It seems to me over the last 5 years that a lot of athletes and celebrities have started to take equity stakes. I think there's a great, like the Body Armor, was out with Kobe, I guess, he netted like $200 million. And then vitamin water back in the day with 50 Cent, so just take it from the other side for a minute. If I'm a company and I want to enter into a marketing relationship, or I want to either give or sell equity to an athlete, like what kind of diligence do they do besides just knowing somebody? Because, that brand is a person, and that person, like we had a CrossFit class, last night for our Halo Academy, one tweet kind of like destroys a person's brand. So, how do you think about that? And how do you negotiate with someone to say, hey, look, here's a background check on this guy or woman, or how do you think about that?
Yeah, no, great question. So number one, the guys that work with me, there's a couple main things that I look for. And it's number one, how they carry themselves, as well as timeliness. When I was 18, I was working on a deal and the client was 2 hours late, and it was a 6-figure deal. And I was like, I can't work under this situation. So I work with the individuals that are really focused in building their portfolio. If they're only focused on playing football, they're not my client. And so I'm very big on the analytics side. So when a business, in your scenario, We look at their analytics of their social media platforms to understand their age range of who's following Jaylon Smith of the Cowboys. What is that age range? How much are they, what are the impressions? What are the likes looking like? Are the likes converting to clicks back to websites? So we're big on the analytics side, but I would also say we do a lot of due diligence on the business side. If we're going to do an equity deal, we're looking at every number in the books as well as a 5-year projection plan and what that exit strategy is. So I think the due diligence really goes on both sides of the table. And that's really what I excel in and I enjoy doing, is diving into the business side and how they're growing. I would say a lot of the deals that we're doing nowadays are smaller startups. It's not going with the Gatorades and the Yoplays and the Coca-Colas. It's going for the fastest growing cryotherapy business. It's going into the health and wellness side. It's the healthier drinks, not the Red Bulls, right? It's getting a little more creative with individuals entering the marketplace. And especially during this nature of the world we're in right now with COVID, there's so much more time being spent on social media. So these businesses are trying to hit millions of new followers, hundreds of thousands, and going through the athlete and influencer category is really, truly helping businesses right now. So that, I hope that answered your question properly.
Yeah, it does. Layering on to that, obviously, take Jaylon Smith as an example, during the season, the guy's not, going to be as available, to do cameo appearances or to be on a Zoom call or, what have you. So when you think about, maybe educate us on, here's what I'm going to give, what do I get?
Yeah, no. So during our off season is my craziest time. So we pre-record a lot of content during the off season to schedule out during season. But Jaylon is not the normal individual. He is involved in all email correspondence with businesses. If there's a deal that is coming to fruition, he speaks for himself and is on every conference call. I'll schedule them on his off day on Tuesday, and he still does work in the evening. So he's the ultimate entrepreneur. I think he has equity in 19 businesses at the age of 25. So he is the outsider of the normal athlete. But the guys I work with, they have their own voice. They need to speak for themselves. They're not playing football forever. But, that's what we're doing right now is during off season, we pre-recorded a good amount of content that we can filter throughout the season to oblige by contract obligations. But we'll also we have a video shoot on Tuesday, which is Jaylon's day off, and we'll just stagger them in 30-minute intervals to obtain the content needed to oblige for contracts.
So if you take a look at, let's make an analogy and use, a Disney brand as an example. They'll say to one company, right, you can use these Disney characters or logos on a pair of socks. Somebody else gets a pair of shorts. Somebody else gets the hat. Somebody else gets the water bottle. So, when you go to, someone like Jaylon Smith or one of your other clients, do you kind of lay out and say, hey, look, there's like 25 distinct product categories or types of companies, and do they go exclusive on a category, or is that more open-ended?
It depends on the area. So like for the health and wellness space, Jaylon is in the cryotherapy. He's never really pigeonholed outside of his Adidas deal. For the most part, it's typically open-ended, but Jaylon's never going to enter two businesses in the same marketplace. And he's different because he identifies who he wants to work with rather than, hey, these are 25 categories. I would say most of my conversations with my clients, I dive into understanding 5 to 7 verticals of their interest. And that's who myself and my team are reaching out to, as well as we're being contacted. But we really hone in on average 5 to 7 verticals. And that's just what we stay in our lane with. With another client of mine is Kawhi Leonard. We just started working with him a handful of months ago. When he moved out to LA, that kind of opened up his portfolio because he stripped everything except New Balance after he left San Diego. And I'm focused on, he loves pets, he loves health and wellness, and he loves headphones. So the music industry, I have these 3 verticals, and that's his interest, and that's what I'm focused on. So it's a little different than such a diverse, hey, these are 25 different categories. We really hone in on 5 to 7.
Well, what's your thoughts on some of these leagues? I was watching The Last Dance, with Jordan, the documentary. And, he basically draped the American flag over his Reebok logo when he was accepted the gold medal because, he's a Nike guy through and through. Yep. So, I see every now and again, I can't remember the last time I saw it, but, somebody's wearing like the Beats headphones, but, the NBA or somebody's got a exclusive deal with Bose. So like the guy's got to wear like duct tape on the front of it, on the front, which is a little bizarre. How do you feel about, or like, what's the current thinking being like, hey, I am who I am, and okay, I'll respect like the physical boundaries of like what you've sold, on your behalf as a league or as a stadium versus, hey, once I hit the parking lot, like I'm me.
Yeah, the guys are very strategic. We'll use the headphone example. The headphones are exclusivity for said brand while on the football field, but we all know as they're entering the stadium, the cameras are glued to them. So that's when they're going to wear their endorsed product, or during interviews, that's when they'll wear a shirt with a different brand. We get a little creative on how we can obtain that content and get the visibility for the brand. We have to understand that there's no Dallas Cowboys without the NFL, and so on, filter down to the players. So we obviously have to respect what the NFL partnerships with Bose and Gatorade, et cetera. But you know what? They get to wear their own shoe brand on the football field, even though the Nike logo or whatever it is on each sport realm has on the jersey. So it's just a lot of creativity. They also, like, for example, I had a client that had a little massage thing for his leg. It was a little compression therapy. Well, the contract says 90 minutes before game time. So what did my client do? He got out there 120 minutes before game time, had the Cowboys photographer obtain images of him on the football field still before the game. So there's little workarounds, and it's just finding those little pockets.
So we use this follow-up email reminder called like followup.cc. So okay. Remind ourselves to do something. Do you have like a CRM with Revolving Mind that, like, once a guy on GPS like hits the parking lot, it'd be like, hey man, change your headphones, change your socks, and change your cleats?
Nope, none of it. No, thankfully my guys, I don't have to babysit them. They know their contracts. I have my weekly calls with them on what we have to oblige for contract purposes. My guys are very in tune. They don't have hundreds of businesses. It's typically 5 to 10. Jaylon's, again, has 19 plus. But no, they really look at it as their own business, and they are their own business. And they agreed to this partnership, so they know what they have to do, and they're adults. So no, I when I first got into the industry, I was babysitting and out at the bars till late and trying to be around these guys. I don't do any of that anymore. And I was telling David earlier that, now everything is referral based for me. The way I got to Jaylon was I was making the 6th round pick more money than him. How did I get the 6th round pick? I was making the undrafted guy more money. So it's all been referral based. Kawhi's agent has been watching what I've been doing for the past 3.5 years. It was a long relationship. Would have never predicted that he was going to be out in LA. But it's really just, I focus on myself and the work that I'm doing, and the rest is just going to come, and it has, thankfully.
So there's clearly been a wave of individual investors getting involved in companies, whether it's, Wahlberg at F45, or whether it's like Tonal, they got 4 or 5 athletes. What have you seen somewhat of a paradigm shift where companies have the guts to ask you to have your client write a check versus, saying, hey, look, why don't you give me free equity, or I'll give you free equity, or I'll give you, X $1,000 a month, where they say, hey, look, I'll give you that, but you got to write a check.
Yeah, and I actually like that. I think it builds a true, authentic partnership, and it shows that my client's buying into their business just as the business is buying into them. I would say that we've done it in different tiers where we'll do X% for equity, but then they also have to open X number of locations of, say, cryotherapy, for example. So each cryotherapy business costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's a different way that they're buying in, they're expanding, but the business is also buying in. So I think it's like, just like a marriage, right? You both have to put in the work and show that you're there for each other. And that's kind of what I see in this world as well. I actually think that when businesses have the guts to ask for capital, it means that they truly believe in their business and they need a little bit extra to get to that next level. And my clients know that their platforms can help take them to the next level. And if it's, a couple $100,000 to get them where they need to be, my clients are all ears and we have a handful of deals right now that they're being gifted X percent, but to get to this amount, they have to invest X number of dollars. So that's kind of what I'm working on right now.
All right, so let me ask you an uncomfortable question because we got to talk about it. So there's companies out there that have been doing the wrong thing, whether it's their product's got a defect, like, a Bridgestone tire, or like Volkswagen, and they, have been messing with the emissions, or, they got a racial, prejudice issue, and they're trying to basically solve that by, like Shaq becoming like the spokesperson for Papa John's after, the CEO went on a tirade, which was completely ridiculous.
Yep.
And unacceptable. But at the same time, Shaq is getting paid, to basically, endorse that company to try to make it right or try and change people's perception, or for the company to say, well, you can't say that anymore about me because Shaq's my brand ambassador. So how do you think about it? How do you pitch it to your client, to your athletes? And like, what's their preconceived notion? And are they willing to like serve in that role?
It's an awesome question. And I actually haven't had this situation happen. I haven't had businesses come at me. They've either had other athletes under their portfolio. So I've never even thought of that being an angle. But it's totally out there 100%, and you see it, right? I'll tell you one of my Jaylon, for example. Let's use him again because we've been talking about him. He's creating an MEI event, and what that is a Minority Entrepreneur Institute. Right now, 98% of seed money is going to Caucasian individuals, and he started this. That's a kind of a Shark Tank pitch, and it's just helping elevate businesses that otherwise aren't getting funds. So that's an initiative that my client is doing around this cultural, racial situation that we're in right now. Mm-hmm. But I don't have these situations of businesses trying to leverage an athlete just because of the color of their skin. But I do see it happening. Not something I agree with. Maybe there's a reason I'm not having those conversations because I don't agree with any prejudice situations. But with that being said, it's happening and it's not right. But that's how they're checking a box. There's one of the companies that was in this MEI pitch competition here in Dallas with Jaylon. It's a company that actually does a lot of, it's kind of like a survey situation to understand what the racial feel in office places and Fortune 500 companies. And it's just a way to figure out how companies are operating and what their true backbone is. I think that company is going to be utilized for most of my endorsement deals moving forward to understand the makeup of the business.
That's a great diligence.
Where their values are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, look, it all starts from the top. And, if there is an ownership change or, there is a sit down or there's a CEO and he or she, convinces you like this is the new culture,
yep.
That would be one way to do it. But I think in some instances, it's almost like using an athlete for that purpose. And I've seen athletes actually in the fitness industry recently, without naming names, a couple of people have gone off, a couple of high-end instructors have removed themselves from some of the streaming platforms because the company was overusing them in their marketing campaigns. And that was, they felt like they were being taken advantage of.
It doesn't feel authentic, right? I think that's why it goes back to the types of deals I'm creating. And maybe it's why I haven't run across this, but there's just a mutual interest, right? And when you have these conversations, like my client knows what the motive is. And typically the motive is just to hit more eyes, right? That's why they're executing. And this individual has that reach. I haven't ran into the racial side.
Gotcha. So, just for entrepreneurs that are on, by the way, on the MEI, we're happy to be we do, Dave, send Aaron some of the Halo Academy and maybe a case study on the Planet Fitness. But we do 2-hour case studies, like business school case studies on different companies in the sector. And I teach those as a case study method, like at business school. So I'm happy to do that with you and Jaylon. As like part of like the, whoever wins or everybody, the Shark Tank could do like a 2-hour intensive. It would be pretty awesome. I'm happy to do that.
I agree. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, so just to give our listeners here who, like, we just got off the call with Next Water and a Kisa Water, and they've got a CBD water brand.
Cool.
And they've got some partnerships that they're forming. What's the length of the term of a deal that you try and put in place? And, what would you say? I mean, it sounds like you got your act together, but on average, what's the percentage of happiness on these deals?
Yeah, I would say most of my deals are 1 to 3 years. And that just goes to showing the true authentic. It's not a one-off. We don't do a one-off paid post. It's just not real. I have done 3 to 6 month partnerships, but the most are 1 to 3 years. And I would say I have about an 80 to 90% happiness rate. I would say the times that it goes sour is when the business is asking way more outside of the contract. And my clients are normally willing to go above and beyond because they have equity, right? They want the business to grow, but they also don't have.
I never heard of service creep, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Just every deal I work on.
So I would say we have a very, very good success rate, but it goes into the due diligence, right? We're not just doing it because someone's throwing out, $100,000 to my client. So it's a lot that goes into it to make sure the deals are right, and it's not about the quantity; it's truly about the quality.
That's awesome. So, you seem like a pretty sharp entrepreneur from everything we've talked about in a short period of time. You got any quotes that you live by or anything that's taped up on your computer or above your wall, or like, hey, that's an Aaronism?
I have Kobe's letter right here that he wrote at his farewell game. And it was my first time at the Staples Center, and it was Kobe's last game, saying when we first met, I was just a kid. And that really stuck me, just in the sense of where my passion for sports started and how it evolved into the marketing segmentation. I also just live every day that it's a new day. And I truly am so fortunate that I get to learn about so many different businesses every single day. On our business side of our agency, we work with no 2 businesses in the same category. No 2 Italian restaurants, no 2 cryotherapies. There's so many agencies that focus on, hey, I'm the restaurant agency and I have 5 Italian restaurants. You're not giving them true value. Like, you can't. So we pride ourselves that we have an OBGYN, we have a winery. We dive into their business, understand who their target market is, and then grow from there. So those are a couple things that how I live my life, is just soaking up knowledge and really learning every single day.
That's awesome. So one day I looked up, in closing here, where the word client came from, because I was like, sometimes that's like the word wellness came from a guy at the Mayo Clinic who was trying to come up with the opposite of illness. I'm like, okay, I can change this thing to health, active lifestyle, outdoors. That's where we got the Halo from, because going from illness to wellness means like you're not sick. That's not really aspirational. So we want to kind of level it up. But the word client came from like the Latin term of someone under your protection. So it sounds like you are well serving your clients from this discussion and taking care of them and protecting them and making them better and giving them long-term wealth opportunities and basically protecting them. So great to meet you. Let's do some stuff in the future. It sounds like it could be a lot of fun and really rewarding. So
thank you.
Appreciate you being on.
So much.
All right, man. I know you got a 345. Great to see you.
Thank you so much.
Keep Jaylon healthy, man. I like watching that guy. All right.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Later. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
As we continue to build our Halo Talks email notification database, want to offer you a free $10 instant gift card from our friends at Promotion Vault. Also to show you how easy it is to offer your members and prospects and clients the ability to get desired actions out of them and reward them in real time. Go to halotalks.com, put your email address into the pop-up box, see how it works, get a free $10 gift card from us, and keep listening and making everybody great.